Evolution of the industry has changed to where record keeping is tremendously more important.
Made a new rule and everybody had to start keeping records.
Everything's documented.
Hello everyone, I'm Joe Dager, and at ApRecs I handle business development and assisted in creating our grower onboarding process. In the past, I have worked with companies on their lean journey, and most specifically, though my roots are in manufacturing, in the service end of the business. In software as a service type companies, the SaaS companies, I've always tried to make that second S, service, as big as the first S, software. Today will serve as a brief introduction to Lean and our kickoff for 2015. We are happy at ApRecs to provide a forum to promote Lean. Most of the examples will be from ApRecs, with some of them taking you behind the ApRecs philosophy as we are on our own Lean journey. Today we are going to spend about 5 minutes on each of these subjects and go through them rather quickly. Please feel free to ask any questions. Since we are recording this, I will have you muted, so raise your hand or type the question in the chat box. Workflow presence with SIPOC. SIPOC stands for Supplier Input, Process, Output, and Customer. They all need to be considered before you take any steps to improve your process. Detailing these elements in a SIPOC diagram is a great way to visually understand the process and unweave a flow diagram that looks like spaghetti. It is a way to realize if you have a process and you can explain it and that you have a standard process. The supplier. Do you know who your suppliers, the provider, internal and external? Who provides the input, the request for this process step? Input. What is the action that triggers the process? Process. This is the process step, the action that changes the input to an output. Output. What is the outcome? What does the receiver receive that is different than the input? How will this change the previous process step? Customer receiver. Who receives this process step? Even if you start with the end in mind, it is important to define building a process with a beginning and an end point before you begin. This does not mean you have to start on the start block. Often it is easier to start with the process steps and list them. Then you can go back and complete the missing blocks. I'd encourage you to leave some space to write things in between those process steps. But when completing a SIPOC, do not work just from left to right, though. It might help you to start with the customer or even your ultimate goal. You may be defining the process vertically through each process step, and then determine who is actually performing and receiving what. You're going to find gaps in the delivery, but remember, the first SIPOC that you create should be current state. If there's gaps, it is where a lot of handoffs are being performed poorly. Don't strive to correct it. Note it and put it somewhere else. Put a note on a board, future state. Because you're building a current state right now, not a future state. It comes later. There's a way this is getting done now. Define it and find out how it's getting done. You may also find, depending on the level of detail you provide, that the supplier may have been the customer the step before. This often happens in small companies, and though it can be an area that we look at to combine and simplify, it is just as often an area that we want to make the step visible, because it would be something like moving an item off of Gmail to Zendesk or something. Other times, the supplier and customer is a team and not an individual. Identify appropriately and later we may find it to be something that is separated as a process step, that things happen inside a team. If you find a dramatic change, such as a request needs to be divided from the team to individuals, like I just mentioned, just end the SIPOC there with the multiple outcomes and customers noted, and start a new SIPOC for within the team. The key is to create a current state and to put it down in writing. Well, if you can't define what you do, you really don't have a process. In our upcoming months, we will be concentrating in a few more specific areas. Our idea is to delve deeper into TWI, training within the industry, success in your data, CAPA, corrective action, preventive action, and topics such as that. We will also be hosting an AgX Winter Conference Series. Though not exactly lean, it does have very similar characteristics. It is a non-promotional series, not about the ApRecs platform. As I said, the knowledge can be applied to any system. This is not a sales demo. It is simply how to go from looking at food safety data in a reactive way, from compliance to awareness to opportunities. We typically look at this data from a lens of compliance, audits, collecting and storing records. We're going to show you a different way, how to bring this data to life through awareness and use, and from a strategic viewpoint to meet business objectives. We invite you to join us for this 3-part webinar series. There is a cost for the series. However, I'm happy to email you a discount code for the entire cost and a free ebook on Will Values Matter at the end of today's program. So this concludes for today. Can I answer any questions that you might have?